This is our new merch. It is the King of Nightmares. And if you're just listening, it's a silhouette of somebody sitting. You just see glowing red eyes with a raven on his shoulder. He's all black in the shadows. He's sitting on a throne of paperbacks and books all around him with the typewriter out front and videotapes. And it says, raised on paperbacks and panic, we're all geeked down here, which is a beautiful
all
nod
geeked
to
down
it.
here is my favorite part.
Original geek, that's who I am. Rolling 20s with my squad, we got a plan. Marvel heroes on the wall, D&D dice in hand. Original geek, across the land. Level up, never gonna give it up.
All right. Welcome to Original Geek, the podcast for anyone who rolled dice in a basement, waited all night long to download comic book covers, and proudly wore the label of geek back when it could get you shoved into a locker. Each week, we're going to dive into what it meant to be a geek in the 70s and 80s and how that compares to today's pop culture multiverse. We are your hosts, two of the Gen X survivors who didn't just watch geek culture evolve. We lived through every awkward phase. Hi, I'm Steve Scarfo.
I'm Jeff Shaw, and we'll be your psychic gift, unlocking today's terrifying truth. However, before we can do that, I think I need to correct
unfortunately. No, sorry. Oops, that lore is no more. It is time for canon correction. We made it a couple of episodes.
Yeah, we did.
Without one.
This one's big for me because, I've talked about my memory not always being the best. Well, this time I'm actually worried that I might have some, dementia. I don't know what's going on. But when I talked about Mothra in the last episode and laying on the egg and the egg bursts, of course, moths, I could not think of the term larva. So I said snail. But
said worm.
Larva would have been better. And then I'm like, no, snail's not quite right. So I said caterpillar. And then it becomes a moth. No, caterpillars become butterflies. This was a silk moth, and these were silk worms. And that wasn't just white goo. It was covering Godzilla with, it was silk. All of which is incredibly obvious. But at the time, and like on one of those game shows, like the contestants like knows the answer, just can't think of it. So in a panic, I thought of two terms that wouldn't work. I could have said larva. I could have said worm. I said snail and caterpillar. So that is my canon correction. Sorry. And
well, that's
everyone
okay.
disappointing in my mental acuity, you have good reason to. So,
well, listen, if I were on my game for the last episode, I could be even giving you shit right now, but I can't because I was not. Because I was listening back to the last episode and I made the ridiculous claim that there are no new creatures.
Tried to tell you.
You did. If you were listening to the last episode, I did have a cold and I was not on the top of my my mental acuity any more than you were. And and literally every time I'm like, but there's no new monsters. You're like, no, Shape of Water and the gore. And I'm like, yeah. And somehow I just was so stuck on this idea that there are no new like major whatever it was. I was just out of my mind.
Right. And then all the kaiju in all of these films are a lot of them are new.
Dude, there's like 100 examples of why I was wrong. And anybody who was listening to the last episode before this canon correction will be questioning my sanity.
I know.
So I apologize as well. I will blame the cold, but I just was not there.
No mistakes to be made today, though, because our topic today, we're going to nail it.
Yes. Today is a topic, and, we've talked about this a lot. We're talking about Stephen King, people. This is one of my favorite authors. I can't say I have one favorite because, to me, an author for a fantasy novel like Robert Jordan is a lot different than a horror master like Stephen King. So I would never pick one over the other. But at the top of the horror list for me is in suspense is definitely Stephen King. This is probably one of the very first like non-fantasy related authors that I read. I remember distinctly when I was in the Army, someone had a copy of The Stand and we were on a bivouac, as they call it. We were out in the woods for a couple of weeks doing a maneuver. So when you had downtime, there was not much to do. And someone had this copy of The Stand, and it went through like 12 of us reading it. And it was the first one I read, and I absolutely fell in love with him and the storytelling. And let's not even, well, we will, but like that doesn't even include the movie TV adaptations, which we're going to talk about more today.
Yeah, of course, now what how am I coughing? How
I
dare
gave you a cold through the show. I don't know how
how
that
dare
works.
you? So I think it's interesting because in my recollection in our last episode of Creature Double Feature, that I wasn't into horror, and that happened when I was a teen. And I looked back on the movies I remember watching first, and they came out in '83. So I don't know if I saw them in the theater. I can't imagine I would have. I would have been 12 or 13 in '83, and because I remember watching. I think it's the Dead Zone. Yeah, Dead Zone was '83, and Christine. So Christine and Dead Zone. I watched both of those, and I must have watched them on tape though, because I can't imagine being allowed to go in. But yeah, I think my entry into Stephen King was Christine and Dead Zone movies, not the books. I think what probably brought me into the books was because I liked fantasy. Was he wrote a fantasy book called The Eyes of the Dragon, and I think that's what I'm like. Oh well, wow, this isn't horror. It's not. So he writes more than horror, and I think he often gets pigeonholed into horror, but like the Dark Tower series is fantasy, it's sci-fi, it's Western. It's got elements from a variety of topics. And then Stand By Me, that movie, based on his short story, The Body, and that's not horror. I mean, there's a dead body, yes, but like it's not a horror movie. Like it's just a coming of age type movie.
Yeah.
And so he writes a lot of different genres. And then finally, even when it is horror, it has these other elements to it where it's not just about a jump scare. Because the Dead Zone, like that whole concept, like he can touch someone, the main character can touch someone and see their future, right? That's the concept. Yeah. So like that's more of an X-Files type thing.
Yeah, and in that one, it was all about someone who would become president and destroy the world. Right, which isn't a horror type of thing. There's no creature, there's no vampire or Godzilla from last week. It's most often the horror of it, the evil of it is sometimes there's some supernatural to it, like the ability to touch and see it's not what it's about, but that's what causes it. And that's where he always has that twist. And I loved Eyes of the Dragon, but even that it has that Stephen King touch. He just wrote another one, not last year it came out, which was awesome too, called Fairy Tale. I don't know if you've read that one. That's a phenomenal book, but same idea. It's not truly a horror, but it's got his dark touch to it. Some of the characters in the fairy tale world have different appearances and they've been touched by evil a bit.
And I love like the X-Men comic books, and Firestarter kind of reminded me of like a mutant movie, like a superpower that gets out of control,
Yeah, I mean, even Christine was a car. Now they, the theory, or I guess that the through line is that it's been possessed, but it's a car that has a mind of its own, and it's just a car, but it can do other things that cars can't do. He does have his, Salem's Lot as a traditional, traditional, but it's a vampire story. So he does do all that. But I think that's one of the reasons why I hold him apart from other horror. I've honestly not read other horror authors. I've seen a lot of horror movies, but when it comes to suspense, the bizarre, the evil, like even in The Stand, which I found, I've actually read, I think I've read it 3 times. I read the original version once, and I've read the extended version twice. And then there were 2 different TV shows. It's one of my favorite stories from him, but it starts off with us doing it to ourselves. It's a pandemic. And then this power rises from that, and how do people survive it? And there's like a good versus evil that arises from it, but it's not about horror specifically. All right. We do have a guest coming in here for the next segment. So do you have anything else you want to just for Steve in general? I call him Steve, like I know him.
Yeah, no, but it's funny when you mentioned that you don't really read a lot of horror. That's true for me too. Like when I go into a bookstore, back when we went to bookstores, when I go into the Nook store online, I'm gravitating towards other genres, not horror. And so somehow like he broke through, and I think he broke through for a lot of people, that he's so prolific, and he writes in different genres, and it's not, and I don't think he, like, other than, yes, Salem's Lot, some of those like are classic horror stories, but I think a lot of it is psychology, and it's like one of the reasons a lot of people like Shakespeare and why he survived, for hundreds of years, is because of an understanding of the human mind, the psychology, and we just need, like, how does this happen that someone could snap? So we're reading Hamlet, centuries later, and I would not doubt that Stephen King's legacy lasts in a kind of a similar fashion. Not all 100 of his books, maybe, but there's certain books that I think stand the test of time, and things like The Shining, and it's just that ability to kind of express our the human psychology and get it and tap into what makes us tick. I think that really that's really his success.
Yeah. I've been trying to figure out where to tuck this in. We talked about before we started recording. So I was trying to get a list to talk about today, a complete list of Stephen King movies and books. And I, as if you've been listening at all, I'm a fan of ChatGPT. So I went to my study buddy, my research assistant, ChatGPT, and said, hey, give me a full list of every movie or TV show based on Stephen King. And ChatGPT got confounded. Stephen King is so prolific. This is actually what it said. I can't pull together every single film adaptation of Stephen King's work into one full list. There are dozens, including very obscure ones. But here are some major ones with years for your reference. Stephen King has so many movies and TV shows based on his works. And then I asked for a list of books. Same. It wouldn't give me a full list of books. It directed me to Wikipedia. But apparently it's like 65 novels, over 200 short stories. So when you can break AI as a human author, to me, that is the epitome, right? That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think that's hysterical, and I love it. All right. We are going to jump into our Geek Flashback. We have a guest coming in, and we'll have him here in a second.
Let's take a trip through time. It's a Geek Flashback.
All right. As I mentioned, we have a guest with us today. This is Joey Quartuccio, good friend of the family. His kids and our kids go to school together, but also, and more importantly, a big Stephen King fan. So, yeah. Joey, this is my buddy Jeff. Jeff,
how's it going, man?
Joey.
Hey, Joey. So, Joey, either your genes are just superior to ours, or are you not Gen X? Have we invited another generation in?
I know I might be a little younger, but not a whole lot.
Okay.
I think you're saying that to make us feel better, Joe. I think.
Well, I didn't know if we're going to get a
but
millennial angle here.
You have.
Yeah. Probably.
Nice.
If you're more than 35, I will fall off this chair.
I am. I'm 39.
Are you really? Well, now I'm even more mad because you still have all your hair.
I'm
still a generation.
I'm in luck there. My whole family's bald, so I don't know what's happening. It's coming.
You see your future.
Yes.
Yeah, it's coming.
Awesome.
Right,
so
nice.
we're talking Stephen King today. And you and I were chatting before the show yesterday a little bit. So tell us, we just did our sort of intro and what brought us into Stephen King. So tell us a little bit about your interest with King and how you're, to be part of it.
I mean, his movies have always been all over the TV since before I was born. Like, and my mom actually had a huge library dedicated to just his books, like in the downstairs of our house up in Maine. We only lived 40 minutes from Bangor, where his house is. And my mother was actually friends with Tabitha for a short period of time. I swear I met him when I was younger, because my mom has a story of me asking him about if he ever wrote any books about dinosaurs, and he just kind of laughed and patted me on the head.
That's awesome. Isn't that one of those things, though, too, right? We all have done stuff when we were kids, and you look back and you go, I had no idea that was the situation I was in. And you're like, how could you... I was just talking to somebody else, same exact kind of thing. Like, something happened to them when they were a kid that if it happened today, they would lose their minds over.
Yeah,
because
no,
you get to meet.
And I love that
Stephen
you said
King,
your mom had a library of Stephen King. And we actually, just before this segment, Steve pulled up a list of his books and collections of short stories. And yes, you could fill a small library with just Stephen King.
Yeah, I remember being a little kid and looking up at the shelves and just seeing Stephen King. Like, she's obsessed. I mean, she's still obsessed, but I just remember it wholeheartedly as a kid.
So was your entrance his books? Did you start with books, or did you start with films? Or
no, I'm more of a film guy. The It miniseries with Tim Curry was like top tier TV when I was a kid, and I was like the coolest thing. And my kids are super obsessed with that stuff too now. So like, we're watching all that and stuff, and it's just great.
So you were probably about 10 years old when that, or not even?
Yeah, probably not even. No, my mom let me watch anything.
Oh
like,
my God.
we went, she did not care. She said, like, you know, I mean, to be fair, it was probably TV edited and stuff like that too. But
it was made for TV. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
it was regular broadcast TV. Yeah.
Yeah. There wasn't anything too horrible going on, but you know, anything I didn't understand, whatever.
Yeah, no, totally. And like, one thing we had mentioned last week is a lot of like horror didn't show you that, like, the knife going into the body, and neither did that. So I was just rewatching that classic It from, I think, 1989. And the first girl that disappears, you see the clown, then it cuts, and you see the turned over bike with a little bit of blood on it, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
it's very, very, very easy going compared to stuff now. So it's not a big.
Yeah. Oh goodness, yeah. Yeah, Georgie in his yellow slicker, the ring slicker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which, yeah.
Good for you.
Did you ever go back and read it after seeing the TV shows so young?
I actually never. I've read a few of his books, but surprisingly not It. I might have to. My wife read It, and it took her a while too, because it's a 1,000-page book. It was yeah, it's pretty good. It's definitely a lot different than the movie, from what I've heard.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's something about the way it's presented, and we talked about this in the first segment a little bit about how, you know, he's not always straight horror. It's not always creature and this one is a little bit more about fear, and typically the fears of kids revolve around some creature type stuff. But it's more intense, I think, in the book, because you know, in his writing really dives into the psyche of each character, and you get to know each one of these people a lot more so than when you're watching. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he's a good character creator.
They always have some weird thing.
So Joey, and for our listeners and viewers, a sneak peek into our debate, which is what's better, the adaptations of with the films and the series, or the books. It sounds like you're landing on the side of which I'm going to be arguing, that those film adaptations and TV adaptations are fantastic. Do you have a favorite adaptation?
I like the older one better, just because childhood nostalgia, obviously, but also Tim Curry.
I know.
He brought a level of comedy to it that the new ones, obviously, they wanted away with the comedy aspect of it, which I get, but at the same time, that gives it a better personality that he was goofy. I mean, he was a clown. He's supposed to be kind of goofy, I'm assuming, right? Like,
Yeah.
but the Bill Skarsgård ones, which are good, don't get me wrong, he did a very good job, but he's too reasonable and scary as opposed to Tim Curry just being kind of a maniac, just screwing with these kids. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I think the Tim Curry version, and maybe again it's because of the nostalgia, and I read it so long ago, I think it jives better with the book characterization because he was a clown and he was trying to tease these kids into. So, to come out just menacing would only scare them away. But I feel like in the book, he drew them in and then terrified them. So I just still remember his laugh. Like it was so deliberately awkward. That it was just amazing.
Me and my wife actually met Tim Curry at a Comic-Con, like I want to say 6 or so years ago too, at the Boston Comic-Con.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
that
cool.
would have been awesome.
Yeah,
Was
we got
he
a picture.
Was he there presenting any specific
No,
work?
I think it was
Okay.
just him there, icon.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's funny in the way of King is with the writing. He's just one of those people. It doesn't matter what he's there for. People are just going to want to see him because he's done so much. I loved him in this for sure.
Rewatching that old It series, the original one from '89, I couldn't believe Seth Green was in that. I don't know if you know that actor, Seth
little
Green.
kid. He was like the oldest
he was
kid.
one of the kids.
Yeah.
Right?
I didn't know that.
Or was it Richie? Yeah, he was.
He was a comedian, right?
The smart ass. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like perfect.
Oh my God,
I know.
that's
No,
awesome.
It's a perfect. I think that's one of his first roles, and it's a perfect role for him.
Yeah.
That's
absolutely.
fantastic. All right. Thank you for joining us. It was a quick visit, but love your perspective and
Thank
the
you.
history. We are, listen, just for the record, the books are better. Jeff and I are about to fight that out.
Maybe I was going to say I need to do some reading. I'm very lazy when it comes to reading, sadly.
No, Joey. From my case, you've made my case, Joey. Thank you.
It
Because
is
you had
kind of
all
funny.
those books at your fingertips, and you chose the movies.
I did. I had all the books, probably multiple different versions, and I was like, you know what? Tim Curry's looking pretty good right now. I think I'm going to go that way.
That's the best.
Nice.
All right.
All right.
Well, thanks for joining us, Joe. We will talk to you soon. Don't jump off just
Awesome.
yet, though.
Yeah. Have a good day,
All
guys.
right. Thank you, Joey.
The fandom is divided. It's time for Geek Court.
All right. Well, we talked a little bit about it with Joey. So here we are, book versus movie, the ultimate throwdown. I know which way you're going, so I'm going to let you do your best. I'll let you start this one off.
Really? Okay, so I have to defend the adaptation. So let's be clear here with what the ask is, because I think if I can't defend all the movies and all the, there's over 70, and a fair amount of them are misses. They are just not as good as the original material. And we're going to talk about, and so I'm going to bury this one right away. The Dark
Burying the
Tower
lead.
is our epic fail. You're not allowed to bring that one up because
The
we
Dark
got to
Tower?
talk about it later.
Okay.
However, there are some that do a fantastic job. In fact, I think in some cases are better than the story it's based on. Stand By Me there's a short story called The Body about a group of boys that discover a body in the woods. And Stand By Me takes that and blows it up. So I think the reason a lot of his movies aren't as successful is because when you try to take a 1,000-page book and make a 2-hour movie, you're going to miss so much content. But when you take a 20-page short story and you turn it into a 2-hour movie, you're able to get deeper into the characters and their motivations and really develop the story. Shawshank Redemption, same thing, based on a short story. So my primary evidence is movies like Shawshank Redemption and Stand By Me being able to be better than the written source. And then we do have a few adaptations that I feel are as good as the source material, and in some cases improves upon it. It, the second series with Skarsgård as Pennywise. In the book, the way they defeat Pennywise, that is where the movie's better. So Stephen King admits that he is a gardener writer. He plants the seeds and he lets it grow, and it's kind of organic, and he's not an architect that he knows how it's going to end. And I think maybe he doesn't admit it with it, but I know in general he has admitted that he doesn't always care about the endings and he just wraps things up. But the ending of it, like before they can defeat it, in the book, they have underage sex so that they can get empowered. And then they
it's their coming of age moment.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then they literally like physically defeat Pennywise and the eggs of Pennywise's brood. But in the movie, they don't do that underage sex thing of empowerment and coming of age. And they, and instead, they psychologically, conquer their fears, and that conquers Pennywise. So that's my evidence. I can't defend all of the adaptations. I can only bring up some evidence, which I think is what this court case is about, that there are adaptations that are as good or better than the books. Your turn.
I could almost hear now you have to understand, counselor. I can hear you going. So I don't disagree with that. I do think that some of his endings are weaker. And again, he does make fun of himself sometimes for it. But the exact reason you feel like some of those movies are misses is the reason why I like the books better. I do love the adaptations. Skarsgård did a great job. That was a great series. We're going to talk about the new series here during our random review, but which is brand new content, which is even kind of a new thing, right? It's based on his stuff, but it's not based on an actual thing he wrote. I'm honestly not even sure how much he's had involved with the specifics of that particular version. But when you read those books, and we talked about it when Joey was on, that something about the way he evolves the story, the way he writes his prose, the characters that he creates, their little idiosyncrasies, he develops characters in a way that very few other writers that I've read anyway can do, where you feel like you fully know these people because it's like when you sit in a room with somebody and you notice they have like a little nervous tick. Like in a movie, they wouldn't show that because it's not, germane to big screen adaptations, right? But in the story, in the book, that little tick might become something huge later in the story because that's the reason this happened. And it's a tick because of this situation that you don't find out till page 876. And I mentioned it earlier on, I love The Stand to the point where I've read it 3 times. And it is just such a well-written book. Now, I will say there's a little bit of self-servingness in that too. Part of that story starts off in Kennebunk, Maine, and they go down through Berwick, and he literally describes streets we've been on. Yeah. And that's, there's a realism to me about, okay, this is a story of an apocalypse that starts right near our hometown of Wells, Maine. And that part was also an amazing twist. And they talk about it in the movie. They did a TV show, I think it was on Showtime a couple years ago, which was it was better than the original movie that they did, but that adaptation of The Stand was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the fact that you miss some of that in the adaptations is why I prefer the books. I'm not going to say I don't like the adaptations, but I do prefer the book. I think book wins. Just because you lose so much. And it's not just Stephen King. I think that's true of most adaptations. I will always prefer the story from the book. And in fact, some of them, I think we've talked about, just completely missed the mark. And obviously there's a lot of his that have as well. I do, in a weird kind of crossover, and I think it was called 4 Past Midnight was the collection, was where I first read the story of the Langoliers.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorite short stories. And I was at one point someone who thought they might be able to write a script and have realized that I just don't have the discipline for it. Thought that this would make a great movie, and then they went ahead and made a movie of it. So it was very cool to see that connection between material that I really enjoyed and wanted to see visually that they then went and made. And I think they did a really good job on that one. That had Bronson Pinchot as the character. I forget the character's name, but he was the one that ends up going the most crazy.
Yeah.
It's time for a random review.
Ooh, natural 20.
Natural 20. I think it's funny. I just saw you kind of holding up your shirt, and I
Yes.
didn't actually, I
I'm
didn't do this on
representing.
purpose.
Rolling dice.
Rolling dice builds character.
Yeah.
And you have a
love it.
dice rolling shirt on too. That's hysterical.
Yeah.
All right.
And
So,
it says because I'm the DM. So, yes.
well, and we all know the history there. So, this is our second random review, and we liked it so much. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the segment. If you missed the last one, here's the deal. We have a chart. There are 12 categories, all based on the die roll of a D20, and whatever I roll, Jeff will have to pick that and defend the question that came with it. For those of you who might be interested in watching, I am going to share my screen so you'll get a sense of what it is we're doing. So here's our list. It's our random review. I jumped off random review. There we go. So here we go. This is the things we're going to talk about. So depending on what we roll, we talk about what's the topic, and then we'll answer the question. All right? I'm on the stop.
Go for it.
Here we go, Jeff.
Roll me up.
I'm going to roll. Who? I rolled you an 11.
Okay.
I don't know how blurry that's going to be. There it is. It's an 11. So for an 11, it's a performance check, Jeff, for the 1960s aesthetic and the score. Can you analyze the period-specific details, clothing, music, cars? Did the show successfully recreate 1962, or did it feel like really generic?
This absolutely, I think is a great performance. So I rolled an 11, succeeded my performance check, and so did it. Welcome to Derry. It definitely feels like that time period. There's the, right from, kind of the get-go in that movie theater, and they're watching it, and they've got this usher that comes down. He's got a flashlight, and the kids running away, and he's hitchhiking. This little kid is hitchhiking, trying to get out of Derry, and he gets picked up by this old car. And all the costumes, the music score at that time is The Music Man, which I've never seen. And when they're talking about, and you talk about placing it in a moment, but also connecting it in a way to today. I always love these reminders that we often think, oh, today kids have these stupid things they say like 6, 7. And in that song score in The Music Man, they're saying things like swell, aren't they? And they're buckling their knickerbockers below the knees. And you hear them chewing their gum. And it's like,
We got trouble right here in River City.
we got trouble. It starts with a T, and it starts with, and like all the whole rant about the young kids these days, and none of it is that bad. And I just think, flash forward to people like 6, 7. It's it is a stupid thing to say, but I mean, we've always had those complaints. So I feel like it was really great job there. And then plus the layer of menace in that culture that also gets magnified by the racism that's there, because of the way they treat the black characters, and that was something that they had to worry about. And just because, and I'm not saying that doesn't happen today, but I mean, it was just so prevalent, and it was a bit of that menace, and I felt like they really created the 1962 really well. So that's my random review. It's a win.
I love it. That was great. The only thing I want to add that I liked, I don't think we have a question about it, so I don't think I'm going to hurt anything, is in the movies, they show the Paul Bunyan statue
Yeah.
in current Derry, and I love that in the show, they show it being built,
Oh, nice.
which connects the two together, which is really
Yeah.
cool.
That is cool. All right,
All
I'll
right.
roll for you.
Roll for me. Let's see what we got.
Let's see. You, Steve, you failed your dexterity check with a 5.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, 5, yes. Sleight of hand failed. And this is the Dick Halloran crossover. Did including a character from The Shining feel like a genuine tie into the Stephen King universe? Or was this just a cheap Easter egg that didn't serve the plot? So, you can talk about this either way. You can go mixed. Is this a cheap Easter egg, or is it complex? Does it actually serve a plot function with his psychic gifts utilized by the military? Or is this just a gimmick, a nod to the superfan? Your choice.
Do you know, so here's the best part of this question for me. I actually didn't make that connection right away. that it was the same character.
Yeah.
That the Dick Halloran character, like the use of a psychic component in Stephen King is pretty prevalent, right? He has a lot of characters who have some kind. We were talking about it, with the Dead Zone. Like there's a psychic component, so it didn't necessarily click to me right away because it's been forever since I've seen The Shining. I don't think I've ever actually read The Shining as much as I love the books. So I didn't make that connection that Dick Halloran was the same character, and so I think in that way it maybe was a little more nod to a lower level of subculture for folks who are maybe a little bit more into the connections between the books. I just pointed out one, not thinking it would be a crossover to this question, but it turns out it kind of was. So I like the connection between the two. Obviously, this is an it to it connection I was talking about, but the idea of that psychic connection is, I think, very much at the root of this particular story. It has to be. It's what brings it to that Stephen King level, right? There's this malevolence of some sort in the town, and we see that from the minute the show starts. I was hoping one of us would have gotten one of the gory questions and talking about some of that stuff. But I love the fact that they're giving it a grounding, and I'm going to call it a grounding in more reality of there's a guy who's like, psychics help the cops all the time. Well, the army has a psychic trying to get them to figure out where's this energy or power coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And they do talk a little bit more about it. So I think they're trying to give Pennywise and this evil a history. We should have started with a spoiler alert. Just because this is an ongoing show. Episode, when we record this, episode 3 just dropped last night. So I still haven't watched episode 3. So I love it. I think the connection is good. I missed the connection to The Shining. But I'm happy to know that it's there because, again, I love crossover stuff. We've talked about that before.
Well, yeah, so I'm just gonna kind of build on that and agree with you because Stephen King himself does this all the time. He has a connected universe. I mean, that the whole concept of the Dark Tower book series is how everything is connected in his universe. Like these books stand alone. That you don't have to read. Yeah, you wouldn't have to, have read The Shining or seen it to appreciate it. Welcome to Derry. But for those who did and made the connections, which I also, when I've watched the very first episode, I'm like, what's up with that guy? I didn't know who he was, so I looked up what his character was. Like, oh, he's from The Shining. But it's been so long since I read and watched the movie. I don't remember him saying like he was in the military, so I don't know. But I'm okay with it if this was not what Stephen King intended for his Halloran character because it's true to his universe, having these interconnections. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see something else pop up in one of these later episodes. So I think it's true to Stephen King, true to his universe. I think it works.
Awesome. All right, so there we go. Random review. If you like our review, jump online, give it a like, give us a follow, ask any questions. originalgeekpodcast@gmail.com. Check out originalgeekpodcast.com. And we have a new Stephen King inspired shirt that it will drop today.
It's
and
so good. It's so good.
This is one of my favorites. I'm going to do a quick screen share for those of you watching. You guys have got to check this one out. This is our new merch. It is the King of Nightmares. And if you're just listening, it's a silhouette of somebody sitting. You just see glowing red eyes with a raven on his shoulder. He's all black in the shadows. He's sitting on a throne of paperbacks and books all around him with the typewriter out front and videotapes. And it says, raised on paperbacks and panic, we're all geeked down here, which is a beautiful
all
nod
geeked
to
down
it.
here is my favorite part of that. So
Definitely jump on, check out our King of Nightmares shirt. One of my favorites that we've been able to come up with. So
nice.
Thanks for listening to our review.
From floppy disks to streaming clicks, it's Geek Evolution.
All right.
Awesome.
And Steve, you mentioned the last segment about you wish we got one of the grotesque, gory questions. And we can certainly bring that up here, because one thing I wanted to say, and I thought about it last week when we were talking about creature double feature and horror, is and it made me like, I'll bring it up during Stephen King. So Stephen King wrote an essay, I think, about the Dance Macabre, about Edgar Allan Poe and being influenced by Poe. So we talk about evolution, where his introduction into horror and kind of how he took writing, and then you can see it evolve into Welcome to Derry. I know it's inspired by his work, right? So there's two types of horror, and it's the arabesque and the grotesque. And the arabesque, this is, he's kind of rephrasing Poe, is that psychological horror, the suspense. And that is where he considers that's like the bread and butter. That's where of him, like that's true horror isn't the grotesque, but the grotesque is there too. And the grotesque is there. And but its impact, its scare isn't as significant as the arabesque, the psychological. And so he uses it, he leverages it, but that's not where the majority of the horror comes. It's that psychological. And so I feel like when we look at the evolution, and I know this was a question in a random review, is like, was that too grotesque? Was that too over the top right at the beginning? And Stephen King does tend to hold off on the grotesque. He lets the suspense build first. And so when we talk about evolution, I think that that's one area that I think he's made an impact on a lot of successful horror, a lot of the A24 horror, Hereditary, Midsummer. It's that slow build, it's the suspense, and it's not as much. The grotesque is there. You got to leverage it, but it doesn't matter as much.
Yeah. I agree with all of that. And as you were talking about it, it made me think a little bit more about those first two episodes of it. And I know the review itself is over, right? But in Welcome to Derry, there is no pull away. It actually reminds me more when we were talking about horror last week, when I talked about The Walking Dead, where they seem to lean into those grotesque moments. Not seem to. And again, we should have said this before, but spoiler alert, if you've not seen this episodes, they dive deep into the horror of the grotesque, right? It's truly like in the books. in the books, these kids are haunted by their worst nightmares. And that's very well established, but that what's happening to them is each one, it's individual to themselves. But when kids go missing, as they do in that story, we don't see it. You just, all of a sudden, there's a kid being confronted by something that terrifies them, and then they're gone. And the next chapter starts with a missing poster or something like that, right? It's, Georgie has disappeared. In this version, we see what happens, and it is not pretty. Even some of the hauntings of characters that don't end with them missing is very, very intense. I'm thinking of the pickle jar scene was to me just horrific. And I guess that's what they were going for. But so, and we don't usually put a pejorative on it. In this case, I don't know that I like the evolution. I really don't know. It's drawn me in enough that I'm going to watch episode 3 when we're done. But I don't know if I dig that. But
that's
part
the thing
of the
is, like, we can't quite put that on King. I think King is still true.
Yes,
to that
good
notion.
point.
So this is more. So one Rouch in the random review, I guess we're just gonna do it. Is that is a criticism of those who how true is this to Stephen King? And I think but I do also think it's okay. Like, I think I'd rather, overall, I'd rather have this and not have it. I think that this is great. It's intriguing. But yeah, it's definitely, the filmmakers, that's their stamp.
Interpretation.
Like, we love the grotesque, and we're going to do it right away.
No, and that's a good point. That's a good point. That's Stephen King's evolution has stayed true to how he writes his stories. And I just read The Outsider, I guess it was a couple years ago now. Very much true to how he, in fact, I have the book, but have not read. It's a story all about the main character, Holly Gibney. It's just called Holly. So I'm dying to read that. My reading days are slower these days, but
I totally forgot about what was that?
If It Bleeds was a short story based on that too.
The Mr. Mercedes, is that she's in Mr. Mercedes? Oh,
the actress, yes. Holly Gibney, the character.
Yeah, right.
I have not read Mr. Mercedes, so Holly might be in there.
The TV show that they made on it. I don't know if you remember.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Oh, so
the character of Holly Gibney is in Mr. Mercedes?
I think so. I feel like, but even if, like, I just suddenly remembered, like, Mr. Mercedes, I should have brought this up. That also is a great TV adaptation of.
So that's not one I've seen. I'll have to watch it.
Brandon Gleeson, I think, is in it. That character is, because she appears in different shows. She's played by the one who's the Wicked Witch. She's what's that actress's name? In Wicked. She's in Wicked now. She's obviously amazing. So yeah. But I feel like
I can't think of her. Hold on.
So but I think also the evolution, I think about impact. And yes, obviously, Welcome to Derry is those creators who created it. They did I thought generally a fantastic job with that, and then similar with this series. But I love Mike Flanagan's films, who's also very influenced by Stephen King and The Haunting of Hill House, and that is very much in that vein of the psychological and that build over the course of that series. And there's some grotesque in that as well, but he uses it sparingly. It's those shots, it's the atmosphere, it's the psychology, and then throw in that grotesque as needed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's a great point. Cynthia Erivo is the actress.
Your kids don't know how good you've got it.
All right. I'm going to jump on this one first, and it's short and sweet. And go read some Stephen King. That's my entire rant. These movies shows if they pique your interest at all. He's an amazing writer. If you love what he did and what they put on screen, you're going to love the books even more. So I know it's maybe a dying art form. I was at a show just the other night and I was asking people in the crowd because I talk about being a geek, and this guy points to his wife and I'm like, oh, what is her geeky thing? And he said, she reads. That was his geeky thing. So when reading became geek, I don't know, but apparently it is. But get out there, be a geek, and read these books. They're fantastic.
Yeah, I highly encourage that, and don't dismiss it because you think he's just a horror writer. He has other genres that he writes in, and so let that be your way in. Like I said, like I do remember as a seeing like Christine in the Dead Zone, but I think the first book I read was actually The Eyes of the Dragon, which was fantasy. Yeah. So let that be your way in. If there's a different genre you like, grab that. Rita Hayworth in The Shawshank Redemption is not horror. If you like The Shawshank Redemption, because when you read the book, you gain a different understanding of his style and a different way into his world, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah. Tommy Knockers was another great one. More sci-fi than horror.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to jump right through.
It's critical hits and epic fails.
All right. I think you said you have a critical hit.
No, I have an epic fail.
You have an epic fail.
Please go take the critical hit.
All right. I think I might have given away the game earlier in the show then. My critical hit is The Stand. I don't know why. I really can't pinpoint it. To me, there's something about the way that story flows. The original book, I think, was 750 or 800 pages. He released an expanded edition of like 1,100 pages. And I read that one even faster than the original. I think I've read the second version twice. I read one of them twice, and honestly, it's been so long, I don't remember which one. But I love the expanded version. I've watched every version of the adaptations. There's something about this ultimate battle between good and evil told the way he tells it. Again, that nostalgic tie-in to where we grew up at the beginning of the story. And for the record, it's a tiny part of the story, but it's at the very beginning. But to me, absolute knockout of the park. Go read The Stand. Go watch The Stand. Phenomenal piece of work.
Yeah, and kind of tying into our last segment with the hey, read some books. The Stand, if you like post-apocalyptic fiction, if you like dystopian fiction, this works. It's sci-fi, dystopian, post-apocalyptic. As the majority of the Earth's population is wiped out by a virus. And
oddly, no creature. It's not like wiped out and they're zombies, right?
Correct.
We're so used to post-apocalyptic, including zombies. No zombies.
Yeah.
There's supernatural elements, but no creature.
Yeah, so highly recommend that. So my epic fail is The Dark Tower. And The Dark Tower movie... The Dark Tower is like 1,000-page book. And then there are, I should have looked this up, and of course this is going to break ChatGPT, but if you could, while I'm doing my thing, look up how many are in the series, and it's not done yet. So The Dark Tower is a series, and it's also the first book in the series. And they made it into a movie with Idris Elba, so it should work. And he is amazing in it, as he is, and Matthew McConaughey as the villain, and it also does a great job. And the kid, and I can't remember the actor's name, who's the primary protagonist in it as well, and he is great. Like, it has great special effects. This should work. It's 90 minutes long for a 1,000-page book, and there's 5 books, 6 books. Okay, so
7
books. Okay.
Holy crap. I didn't realize there were 7 of these. No, 8.
Okay, so now 90 minutes is not enough for a single 1,000-page book. But did they do that? No. They wrapped up a number of the other books, tried to make this as a standalone film. Sony owns it, And so allegedly they were trying to make a franchise, but an epic fail for a franchise.
Yeah.
It just did not work. In 90 minutes, it's too rushed. There's no depth. There's barely any explanation as to why anything's happening. It's
No.
such a fail. And I would get it if this was not a Stephen King book and they had one shot. They're like, we can't guarantee there's going to be a sequel, so let's just try to do it all. Like the book Aragon, the dragon.
God,
like-
such a fail.
There's a number of examples, and this, of course, they're not all coming to my head. This has happened to a number of authors. It should not have happened to Stephen King. Stephen King.
Oh, Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time was butchered by
Yeah, exactly.
Amazon.
But like, there was no evidence that Robert Jordan's work could stand in that medium,
Right.
whereas Stephen King has, and with a Marvel Cinematic Universe, a DC Cinematic Universe, they could have been a Dark Tower Cinematic Universe, TV shows, movies, and it would have worked. And Universal's trying to make the monster universe work with Frankenstein and Dracula and all that. And I'm not saying they're failing there, but man, they should have had the Dark Tower. That would have been amazing. And then they could have built a Dark Tower, a Stephen King universe. I think it would have been so effective.
Yeah.
So disappointing. That's the
I
epic
will say,
fail.
I think it's 7 books. There are 8, but the 8th book that came out chronologically set between 4 and 5, apparently. So if you do read them, you have to read 8 after 4 if you want to read them in chronological order.
Okay.
But yeah, I have to say, honestly, I've read the first 2. I didn't realize there were 8. My kids and my wife make fun of me. I don't read anywhere near as much as I used to. I'm so busy running around and having fun and doing other stuff. But now I want to go back and read all of them because I love the first 2.
Yeah.
But so
it's crazy.
all right, so we're coming down to the end of the show again. Here we go. Thanks for joining us. Please let everybody know. Like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We are 2 Gen X geeks talking about all sorts of geekdom. We are giving you our Gen X perspective, but we are here for it. Jump on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and just give us a like, give a subscribe. We'll be putting out content. Check out all the new merch, including our amazing new Stephen King shirt, because we are all geek down here, and it's on originalgeekpodcast.com. And yeah, thanks for sticking around with us, and I guess we'll see you next time, huh?
Thanks, OGs. See you next time. We're all geek down here. That is for sure.